Hello, my name is Megan Duden, and my public issue is human trafficking. So, what is human trafficking? It is the modern day form of slavery. It is considered the act of receiving, keeping, moving, or gathering of a person by use of force, threat, or coercion, or deception. So, there are four types of trafficking. There's organ trafficking, which is the removal of one's organs to be sold. There's labor trafficking, which is forcing someone to work for little to no money. There's criminal trafficking, which is the forcing of someone committing criminal acts such as smuggling. And there's also sex trafficking. So, a little bit about the history. So, the earliest form of human trafficking on record was the African slave trade. So, both the United States and Europe were buyers of African groups of people. After the African slave trade, the trafficking of women and young girls came into light by the forcing of women against their will into prostitution. So this gained much attention due to the fact that the majority of the women were white. And in 1904, there was an international agreement for the suppression of white slave traffic. After World War I, the trafficking of all women, not just white, and the trafficking of children, male and female, was finally acknowledged. In 1912, the League of Nations, which encompasses 33 countries, signed the International Convention for the Suppression of Traffic in Women and Children. The incidence of human trafficking has not only spread geographically around the world, but also in volume. So due to this increasing problem, the United Nations was forced to criminalize it under the protocols of the Transnational Organized Crime in 2000. So, the scope of the problem. According to a 2017 report from the International Labor Organization, it is estimated that there are 24.9 million victims currently being trafficked. Of those 29.4, 19% are estimated to be sexually exploited and 64% are exploited for labor. There have been cases of trafficking identified in all 50 states in the U.S. And in 2019, Nebraska had a total of 1,329 total contacts, 348 total cases, and 62 human trafficking cases. So, in order for any business to be successful, there must be a supply and demand. So, according to this report, it is estimated that traffickers earn around $150 billion each year. Of that 150 billion, 99 billion comes from sexual exploitation and 43 billion comes from labor. While trafficking is considered a high-risk job, there is obviously high reward. So even though there is such a high prevalence of traffickers, there were only 14,894 prosecutions and 9,071 convictions globally. So this means that it is not only hard to catch traffickers, but it is also hard to convict them. So who do traffickers look for? So those with increased vulnerability in the United States are children in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems, including foster care, runaway and homeless youth, unaccompanied foreign national children without lawful immigration status, individuals seeking asylum, American Indian and Alaskan Natives, particularly women and girls, individuals with substance use issues, migrant laborers, including undocumented workers and participants in visa programs for temporary work, foreign national domestic workers in diplomatic households, persons with limited English proficiency, persons with disabilities, LGBTI individuals, and victims of intimate partner violence. So here are some statistics. So as I had previously mentioned, there's an estimated 29.4 million people being trafficked globally. It is suspected that 15.4 million victims are 18 or older, while it is estimated that 5.5 million victims are under 18 years of age. 71% of victims are women and young girls, while the remaining 29% are men and young boys. The two races with the highest percentage of victims are Asia Pacific with 62%, African at 23%, Europe and Central Asia make up 9%, and Americans make up 5% of trafficked victims. So what is currently being done? In Nebraska, we have the Nebraska Human Trafficking Task Force, which was created by Doug Peterson, Nebraska Attorney General. So this task force mission is to end human trafficking in Nebraska. In order to do that, they have developed 3 goals, which are referred to as find, stop, and recognize. They want to find human trafficking in Nebraska, stop traffickers, and recognize victims. So the task force finds human trafficking by conducting investigations, which are targeted, remaining proactive in their operations, and facilitating communication amongst the task force and its partners. And they also conduct data analysis to identify trends. They are able to stop traffickers through laws that enable them to arrest and prosecute. They also have identified traffickers forfeit assets used in trafficking, and they ultimately are able to dismantle human trafficking enterprises. One of the biggest needs and what we do good in Nebraska is we recognize survivors and victims of trafficking through a trauma-informed approach and are able then to refer them to client-centered services they need for recovery. So a trauma-informed approach is essential in recognizing the impact this experience has had on survivors. This approach assumes that individuals are more likely to have trauma than not and acknowledge that the effect that trauma can have on their lives. So important resources. So there are many nonprofit organizations for victims in Nebraska. So one of these agencies is called Rejuvenating Women. So they have a program called Restored Wings Program, which helps those who are victims of trafficking regain control of their lives through daily classes and communal living. They are a comprehensive recovery home designed to restore the lives of survivors. So they also offer other important services such as branding tattoo removal. Majority of the victims and survivors come out with some form of branding tattoo. This is a way that traffickers can assert dominance and show that they are just property to them. They also offer mental health and counseling, legal services, and even public speaking training. So what still needs to be done? So while there has been immense growth in the areas of defining laws, acknowledging its prevalence, helping its victims, and even creating task force, there's always room to grow. So human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, occurs at large events where people travel to and have expendable income. So when someone is able to go to an event away from home with expendable cash, they are more likely to dissociate from their lives and then are thus likely to partake in risky behavior. So big events in Nebraska where sex trafficking is likely to occur are at the College World Series, Berkshire Hathaway, fairs, and even Husker football games. So currently there is little being done to raise awareness at these events. So by increasing advertisements and creating awareness at these events that these things can happen, it could potentially deter someone from partaking in this behavior, or it can even help someone identify it and report it. So this may seem easy, but advertisements during big games is very costly. So ads during college football games run on average of about $30,000 for a 30-second ad and can cost over $1 million for a national title event or a tournament, which human trafficking is likely to be happening at those events. So an ad cost for a 30-second advertisement during Game 5 of the 2018 World Series was priced at $373,416. So what I propose is that we get players and coaches involved. This is a free way to advertise and raise awareness. People look up to players and coaches and are more likely to follow what they say. So this was done for the Super Bowl this past year. IJM, the International Justice Mission, has created a pro-athlete group called Team Freedom. So these athletes have taken leading roles at these events in helping raise awareness. Some of the players involved are Kirk Cousins, Zach Ertz, Trey Burton, Jason McCourtney, and Devin McCourtney. Again, these players have taken an active role in raising awareness. So by doing this with Nebraska athletes and coaches, we can further expand the people that we can get to, and then we can add auctions of their signed memorabilia to raise money to fund paying for advertisements or even allocate that money back into the nonprofits in Nebraska that help survivors. So now trafficking and healthcare. You may be wondering why these two are together. So in a 2014 study, it found that 88% of trafficking victims reported that they had come in contact with a healthcare worker during their time being trafficked. So Nebraska has created a human trafficking toolkit as a guide for healthcare systems to address it. Yet while this is extremely important and necessary, in my opinion, needs to be required classes and education for staff so that everyone is equipped with the tools to identify it, because we are more than likely coming in contact with these people. So currently, Ann Boatwright, a sexual assault nurse examiner, travels to rural areas in Nebraska and uses the toolkit to train medical professionals and providers, and has currently trained over 3,000 people. Yet, trafficking happens everywhere and not just in rural areas. So, implementation of mandatory education is necessary all throughout Nebraska. So states such as Michigan and Florida now require that healthcare workers need to receive some form of human trafficking training as part of the licensing process. So in order for training to be required, Nebraska's government or the licensing boards would need to implement these policies. Hospitals would have to take an active role in providing or promoting training sessions for their staff. This would cost money, but is necessary. So in areas who have implemented this, people were able to receive small grants to help cover the costs. There also is a website called CEU Fast. This website provides education and aims to prepare healthcare providers to identify and appropriately report victims of human trafficking. So this course provides 2 contact hours for continuing education. Through this website, you can get 1 year of unlimited nursing CEUs for $39. So while this resource still costs money, it is a manageable expense for healthcare workers. I would like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned that human trafficking happens everywhere, even in our own backyards. As future healthcare workers, it's our duty to continue our education to be able to spot the signs of human trafficking in the healthcare field. I hope that we can change the future and hope that we contribute to ending human trafficking in Nebraska and even globally as healthcare leaders. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.